Welcome back to Couch Talk, everybody. Tonight I had the opportunity to see the newest film, Alien Romulus, directed by Fede Alvarez. In this film, we follow Kaylee Spaney's character, Rain, as she struggles to get off of this mining planet that she lives on. Essentially, they live on a planet that's covered in smog, you can't see the sun ever, the oxygen is terrible, and people are dying from diseases because of it. Everyone is required to work a certain amount of time in the mines to benefit the planet and the government there, and upon doing so, they are allowed to leave and go to a more healthier planet, 9 years away. After she reaches the limit that she is supposed to work, she tries to leave, and they tell her that because there are so little miners left, she's going to have to stay for the benefit of the planet. Pissed off, she meets up with a couple friends, and they devise a plan to go off into space, one of the spaceships that they own, and scrap this abandoned space station that's kind of just orbiting in space. It's desolate, it's abandoned. They hope to find fuel on it that could fuel their own spaceship 9 years across the galaxy to get to this planet that everyone dreams of going to. It has a ton of trees, the oxygen is good, everyone is flourishing out there. But what they don't realize is this isn't just any normal spaceship. It's the Romulus, and it has an artifact that was picked up from the very first ship from the first Alien movie. And what awaits them on board is, well, a living nightmare. I remember leading up to this movie, I was watching a lot of interviews with Fede Alvarez talking about how he wanted to bring horror back to this franchise, how Ridley Scott really wanted to explore the lore of where the aliens came from, and how he understood why you would want to do that, but he wanted to bring it back to its roots, just scare the shit out of people. And now look, I appreciate Ridley Scott trying to explain where these aliens came from and giving us a more science fiction movie as opposed to a horror movie. And I know a lot of people love Prometheus and Covenant. I did not. I am not one of those people, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but for me personally, and I know it's different because aliens are science fiction, and what I'm about to say is grounded in very much real life, but think of Bruce the Shark from Jaws. I like watching him show up and eat people, but that doesn't mean I want to see where he came from. I think what makes both Jaws and the Xenomorph scary is the unknown surrounding them. It makes it creepier to not know how they tick or where they come from. So learning that he wanted to bring it back to its basics, he was taking all the science fiction lore out of it and just pretty much putting you in a desolate, isolated area where these people have to fight to survive against these Xenomorphs. I was so excited heading into this film. I loved his Evil Dead movie. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought it was a wildly good time. And I loved the first Aliens movie and how much it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. So I went to the movies tonight hoping for the best, and I gotta say, I was really pleasantly pleased. This movie does start off with a slow burn. You gotta get to know these characters if you're gonna care about them when they start getting picked off one by one. That is so evident with Kaylee Spaney's character, Rain, and her cyborg brother, Andy. They are set up so well in the first half of this movie that you really, really care about them once shit starts hitting the fan. Kaylee Spaney is magnificent in this film, going from reluctant person to female badass warrior, but really the standout here is Andy as this cyborg brother of hers that's pretty much just programmed to protect her and make her feel good in times where she's feeling tension or scared. He has so much heart. He is the standout of this film and my favorite part. He even has his own Thor coming out of the portal scene in Avengers Infinity War moment in this film where my theater was cheering. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. And Fede Alvarez was not kidding when he said he wanted to bring the tension and the horror back. This movie gets tense to the point where you feel like you can't breathe. He built these sets practical, so it doesn't feel like you're watching a CGI screen of nonsense. It feels like they're actually walking through hallways in an abandoned spaceship. When aliens are charging at people out of the darkness, it is people in really convincing suits that it just feels like something is actually running at you, and it is not a CGI abomination, and it just makes it all the more scarier. It is super violent. It is super gory. The kills are just absolutely gnarly and really creative and fun. Fede almost frames all the shots with the aliens in like the hero pose to make them seem opposing, where the camera's kind of down and looking up at them, and it just makes them feel so larger than life. I love the direction of this film. Fede just understood the assignment. He showed up and he almost aced it. Almost aced it. This movie plays with sound really well too. The tagline of this film is no one can hear you scream in space, and there's a lot of moments where they're exposed to the outside air and it's quiet, but you like feel and you hear the vibrations of things happening, but you don't see it. And it's just so, because you can't see where it's coming from or what's happening, it just rattles you to your core, and it makes you just want to grip your seat and hold your breath. The sound itself in this movie is one of the stars of the movie. The aliens are horrifying. I haven't been this scared in an alien film since the first one. It's less so an action movie the way the second one was, and very much so like the Alien Isolation video game, where for most of the time, they're just trying to hide and run and get back to their ship and get the fuck out of there. And like in any good video game that doesn't give you any weapons, it's scarier than when you can just point a pistol at something and shoot it to kill it. Because now you have to rely on, like I said, your fight or flight instincts, your ability to run and hide. So they're always on the defense, and I feel like that always makes things way scarier. Now, there is moments where Kaylee and certain people are able to step up and have a heroic, badass moment, but it's few and far between, so when it does get there, it feels earned. It feels badass, and it's kind of like releasing the valve to something that's about to explode and just having all the steam come out. You just feel a relief when those badass moments finally hit because they've been holding it back for so long. Now, as much as I loved most of this movie, there are some faults that I do have with it as well. It does not escape the cliched characters making stupid decisions in this film that make me want to punch them in the face. And as much as I don't mind this issue, I know that some people will have an issue that the first half of this movie is a slow build. None of the horror or carnage really happens until the second half, and I'm okay with it because in those small moments you get that character development in these characters that you need to care about them when they start getting picked off. But on the second hand, people that want to get right into the violence and the carnage, you're going to be disappointed. And as much as I did like the character development moments, it did drag a little bit, like 10 minutes right before the action really got going. And then once it does, it just doesn't let up for the second half of this film. Just holding your breath the entire time, essentially. And thirdly, some of the cast here doesn't get enough backstory or time to spend with them the way you do with some of the other cast. So when some of them do start getting picked off, you really just don't give a shit about them. And I get it, like this film just needed cannon fodder for the aliens to kill, but it's a shame that half of them got this great, rich backstory and a lot of time to sit with them and like bond with them, and the other half are kind of just like off doing something off screen, sleeping, and you're not paying any attention to them, and then they just pop up there when they need to be there for the alien to kill them. It felt kind of lazy. But outside of that, I really loved everything else about this movie, including the last 15 minutes, which I know is going to divide people. They do something here where they change the lore of how certain things operate, and I thought that it was insanely creepy and insanely effective. I thought it pushed the envelope further in the lore of this franchise and where things can go. But there are people that don't like their franchises that they've loved for 20 years being changed. And there are going to be some people that are kind of put off by that. But outside of that last 15 minutes, if you are a fan of this franchise, I can't see you not loving the other hour and 50 minutes of it. Like I said, it delivered on everything I wanted it to be and more. I love the performances from Kaylee Spaney and the guy that plays Andy, her cyborg companion. I cannot wait to see what they do if they follow this up with a sequel, and I hope it is Fede Alvarez because he just understands what makes this universe tick. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. Anyway, guys, I hope I gave you a reason to go to the movies this weekend. If I did, if I didn't, let's talk about it in the comments down below. And as always, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll catch you next time.